Good job breaking through in the endgame with some strong maneuvers. Opening with the king's pawn controls the center and opens up the light-squared bishop and queen, often leading to sharp games. e5 is a common response that establishes a presence in the center, controls d4 and opens up the queen and dark-squared bishop. Knight f3 develops the knight toward the center, attacks the e5 pawn and prepares to castle. Knight c6 develops the knight toward the center, protects the pawn on e5 and eyes the d4 square. The Lopez opening develops the bishop to immediately attack the knight on c6, the lone defender of the e5 pawn. a6 forces the bishop to decide exchange or retreat. Bishop a4 safely retreats the bishop, while keeping pressure on the knight. Knight f6 attacks the undefended e4 pawn and develops the knight at the same time. Castling gets the king out of the center and prepares to develop the rook to e1. Bishop e7 develops the dark-squared bishop and prepares to castle. Rook e1 centralizes the rook and protects the e4 pawn. b5 gains space on the queen side and forces the bishop to the b3 square. Bishop b3 is forced, but the bishop is well placed because it attacks the f7 square. Castling gets the king out of the center and activates the rook. c3 prepares the d4 pawn push, opens up the c2 square for the bishop and allows the queen to develop on the queen side. d5 takes space in the center, attacks the e4 pawn and allows the light-squared bishop to develop. E takes d5 captures the d5 pawn, attacks the knight on c6 and allows the e1 rook to attack the e5 pawn. Knight takes d5 recaptures the d5 pawn and centralizes the knight. Knight takes e5 captures the pawn and places the knight on a strong central square, where it attacks the knight on c6 and the f7 pawn. Knight takes e5 captures the knight on e5 and centralizes the knight where it attacks many important squares. Rook takes e5 captures the knight on e5 and attacks the knight on d5. c6 defends the knight on d5 and allows the queen to develop on the queen side. d3 opens the diagonal for the dark-squared bishop and prepares to play c4 in the future. Bishop d6 attacks the rook and points the bishop toward white's king side. Rook e1 develops the rook and takes control of the open e-file. Your queen becomes more powerful by developing towards the action. This is the only good move. This blocks an attack on a pawn. You are threatening to win material through a tactic. This prevents the opponent from being able to win material through a tactic. You create luft for the king, providing it an escape square. This misses an opportunity to develop a knight off its starting square. This moves your queen to a safer square. This ignores an opportunity to develop a knight off its starting square. You are threatening to win a queen through a fork. Only one move worked there, and this wasn't it. You are threatening to win a rook through a fork. This allows the opponent to eventually win material. You ignored an opportunity to win material through a tactic. This pins a bishop, which restricts its mobility. This is the way to win material. This defends the attacked rook. You trade off equal material. Takes back. That is a tempo-gaining move. This moves the bishop to safety. This is a fine move. White has got a strong protected passed pawn. Well done, an excellent move. Moving from its starting spot, the knight gets involved in the game. You're kicking their bishop out of a useful square. This move puts the bishop on a safer square. You kick the opposing bishop with a pawn, forcing it away. This moves the bishop to safety. Very good choice. A very strong play. That's an even trade. Recaptures. This activates your king in the endgame. This is the start of the endgame and you are losing. A solid choice. This is a fine move. This makes a passed pawn. Now your opponent can't stop you from winning material if you make the right moves. This allows the opponent to win material through an eventual pin. This is the way to win material. This steps away from the checking rook. That pin against the king will win material. This leads to losing a rook. This move doesn't hurt you much, but it doesn't help either. Takes back. You are threatening to force eventual checkmate. This allows the opponent to add pressure on a pinned knight. You ignored an opportunity to win a knight by adding pressure to a pinned piece. This misses an opportunity to capture a free pawn. You step your king away from the checking rook. This allows the opponent to win material by checking the king away from its defense. Nice check, you force the king away so you can win material. This removes a pawn that put the king in check. You continue the checkmate attack. This move puts the bishop on a safer square, getting closer to the forced checkmate. One of the best moves. You're continuing down the road to checkmate. You captured that free rook. This makes a passed pawn. You did it, nice checkmate.